Hey guys, welcome back to Sparkman Homestead. My name is Krista and we are in the pantry. We are going to finally get to do a pantry tour together. I am so excited to show you guys what I have been canning all gardening season. So this is my back pantry room. That's kind of what I call it. And it has a beautiful south-facing window, which I love for my plants. That's kind of where I put all my plants, and that is also where I put my grow lights when it is gardening season or seed starting season. But that is not necessarily wonderful for these canning jars. So I have these black curtains that when I am not showing them off or when I'm getting something out of it, I usually have these black curtains closed so that the sun doesn't get at it. There is another door back here, but I always keep this blind shut also because I don't want, you know, that light getting into my canning jars because too much light is not good for storing food. A lot of this stuff has been stuff that I have canned up this year with our gardening season. Some of it I have purchased from my local Amish because some of it I didn't get a good harvest with. Some of it I don't even have. For example, like an apple tree. We have apple trees, but we just planted them this year, so they're not going to produce anything for the next couple of years. So things like that I do purchase at my local Amish. For example, I just purchased this box, huge box for $12 at my local Amish today. I have a couple of really fun projects planned for that tomorrow, but that will be next week's video for you guys. A lot of stuff that you see too is because I had a really good tomato year this year. So I canned up enough tomatoes to kind of get me through for 2 years. So let's get started with the tour. I'm going to go into a little detail about what each item is and usually what I plan on using it for in the upcoming months or during the winter months. The other thing that I really like to do when canning is keep like things with like things. So I try to like group all my tomato products together, all my condiments together, my pickled stuff. The other neat thing that I do is just label on this. Somebody actually gave me this suggestion. I think it was in one of my pantry tours in the past, and they said just get chalk and write on here. Now it is starting to rub off because I'm constantly opening and closing it because this is what we eat out of. So one really neat thing that I might do is make little cards that I can just slide underneath the canning jars and they just pop out here, and it looks really pretty and nice. So I'm probably going to work on that project maybe in the next couple weeks just to kind of pretty up my pantry a little bit because I love it. It is just such a show of the blessings that God has provided us with this year with our garden. Like he has really blessed us. And it also shows the hard work that I was able to do with those blessings. So I just really love being in my pantry because it's just awesome. And plus the food security back here in this room is amazing. Like I do not have to rely on the grocery store. I don't have to panic when prices start going through the roof. Like this really is a really good way to kind of keep us on our tight budget. We are a one-income household. My husband does work full-time and I am a stay-at-home housewife. So this is kind of my job, is to make sure that our budget stays on point and that we have good, healthy food to eat. So this is part of making all of that work. So on the top shelf here, I kind of keep my soups together. I don't have a lot of soups right now, but I am planning on making a little bit more in the future. I really want to focus on making meals in a jar because for busy nights, that is such an awesome thing to have. We love this soup. This is a Zumpa, I'm not going to pronounce it right. This is like, we call it the Olive Garden soup. It's the one with the kale and the potato and the sausage. Can this up. This is so good. All we do is we just dump this into a pot, add a little bit of cream or milk to it because I do not can it with any of the dairy products in it. So we just add that at the cooking time and it is super good. 1 quart will be good for me and Steven. The other thing that I have to mention when doing this tour, it is just usually Steven and I at home eating. Now, we do have 2 children, however, they are away at school, so they are really only home during the summer break and during holiday and when they're not working. So they are not here full time. So this pantry, yes, it would feed us, all 4 of us, if it needed to. It would be really tight and I would really have to work on really stretching stuff, but usually it is just me and Steven eating from this. So that is why if you're looking at it and saying that's not enough for a year, it's just 2 of us usually. And then I have some French onion soup here. Love, love, love this stuff. Just dump it, put in a little bread on top and some cheese. This stuff is amazing. This is such a good soup to have. This is how far deep it goes back. So I can fit quite a bit on these rows. So if you're seeing just the front of it, it does extend back pretty far. I purchased this shelf at Costco, I think 2 years ago, and I got it for, I believe it was under $100. I was actually looking at buying another one, and they have jumped in price so much. I really want to be able to get like another shelf to go in here, but I looked into it, and you can't actually buy additional shelving for it. If you can, please, please, please let me know. I can't remember the maker of this, but I know I got it at Costco, and it is built for, I think, like 5,000 pounds or something. I made sure that the shelf that I was purchasing was going to be able to handle a lot of weight, because that would make me cry if my shelving failed and these all fell over. I live in South Central Kentucky, so we do not have earthquakes here. If we do, that would be an extreme rarity. So I'm not too concerned with having like a blocker so that they don't fall, but I am gonna actually probably end up putting some type of board here, only because if something accidentally gets bumped, I don't want it to fall over, and again, that would make me cry. So earthquakes aren't an issue here, but clumsiness is, so I do want to safeguard against that. That is something that I am looking into getting done, is just kind of getting another barrier here so that they can't fall forward. Hey guys, interrupting the pantry tour just to let you know, because I failed to mention it during the pantry tour and I see it in this one clip. I double stack my canning jars, but I put a layer of pretty thick cardboard in between each of the canning jars, so they are not stacked directly on top of them. They say it is not safe to double stack directly on top without something in the middle, because it can cause false seals. So anytime you see anything double stacked in my pantry, it will have a layer of cardboard in between it. So I just thought I would come in quickly and just let you guys know that, in case I get any comments or questions about that. It is perfectly safe to double stack, provided that you have that kind of layer in the middle of it. So back to the pantry tour. Okay, so these are all of my beans. I have some lentils, some bush baked beans. These are just some baked beans that I do, and it is supposed to mimic like the bush kind. They're okay. I find that when I make baked beans, they always turn out really hard. So I am gonna try to work on making a better recipe, or finding a better recipe to make the baked beans, because the beans are really hard, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like, I'm soaking the beans, I'm pressure canning this, so I'm not quite sure. So I'm gonna have to practice a little bit more on that one. But those are the baked beans. Then I have some white beans, pinto beans. We love having canned pinto beans because we make refried beans with these. So good. Canned chickpeas. I use these chickpeas for quite a bit of stuff. Like, they're really good roasted with a little bit of vinegar and salt. They're like a salt and pepper chickpea. I also make a lot of hummus with them, so this is kind of a staple to have on the shelf. Then we have black beans. That's another thing that we consume a lot of. I know that you can just store dry beans. In fact, over here, I have a whole bunch of dry storage. We'll get to that later, but I do have dried black beans in storage. But I just love the convenience of being able to get one of these jars off of the shelf and just have instant beans. I don't have to worry about cooking them, soaking them. Definitely a nice thing to have on hand. And then we have some red kidney beans canned as well. The other thing that we really like is Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. I have done a couple videos on canning this. This is our favorite barbecue sauce. It is so good. You can do like a barbecue chicken with this. Just throw this and chicken in a crock pot, let it cook all day. So good. The other thing that I tried to do this year was can some tomato juice. This is just plain tomato juice. I was going to try to do a V8 juice, but I didn't unfortunately get to it. I do have some more tomatoes in my freezer, so I may try to can up a V8 juice. Steven loves V8 juice. I personally cannot stand it. I am not a fan of tomato juice. I am not a fan of V8 juice. Nothing like that, but I will definitely can it up because he does enjoy that. So it may be something in the future that I may do. And then I just have some lime juice and some lemon juice over here. These are staples when canning because if you are doing canning, you cannot use like a regular lemon juice. You need to have a canning lemon juice in order to safely can. So I like to keep that on hand. And then the lime juice I use in a lot of my dressings and marinade also. So that is something we go through a lot of. And then over here, I just have some pasta sauce. This is just tomatoes with just seasoning. I like to put onions in it. I think I have a couple of peppers in there. Just a whole bunch of Italian seasoning in there. This is our go-to. Whenever I can tomato sauce, which we will get to, it's kind of out of order. I do have a little bit of tomato products on the bottom. It's making my OCD a little bit panicky, but that's fine. But when I can my tomato sauce, I can it plain. I don't can it with anything in it. It is just plain tomatoes, no salt, no nothing. So if we want to have something that has a seasoning in it, we will go for the pasta sauce. I try to also can my pasta sauce a little bit thicker than I would my tomato sauce. And then right here we have all diced tomatoes. I like to can them in quarts and pints just because some recipes call for less than others. So I like to have an option for both of them. Now pasta sauce I only can in quarts because that 1 quart for us is 1 meal. We like really a lot of sauce with our stuff, so I always can these in quarts. I've never found that I would use less than a quart of it. Then I have some spicy enchilada sauce. I didn't actually can any enchilada sauce this year because we don't eat a lot of enchiladas. This stuff is really, really spicy. Next year, I'll have to can up some enchilada sauce because we'll be through this. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 5 jars here, but I also have green enchilada sauce, so there's a mixture of it, but this was just really, really spicy. So next year when I can it, I'm gonna take down the heat probably a little bit. And then right beside it, we just have some green enchiladas. I can't remember what I used in this. I think potentially I used green tomatoes in this. Maybe tomatillos. I can't remember what I used to make this. I did make it last year, so we definitely have to work on getting through this stuff this year because this is even canned in 2021. So I really, really have to get through this enchilada sauce. So we might be having a lot more enchiladas. And then this is something that I canned with you guys this year. It was a new one to me. It is a sweet chili sauce. It ended up turning out more like, because I amped up the spice in it by mistake. I will link the video for you guys. But it's kind of like a spicy ketchup. I actually really, really enjoy this. Having wherever I would have ketchup, I actually just throw some of this in it and it's so, so good. It was a happy little mistake. And then I canned up some Rotel. Also have a video showing you guys how I did that. That one, I made an error and I used a beef steak tomato or like a slicing tomato instead of a paste tomato, which you're supposed to use. So it turned out, I don't know if you can see, it's really, really runny. So next year when I can it up, I'm going to use paste tomatoes and we are going to do it the right way so that I don't end up with like a Rotel sauce and not like a salsa. And then this is our favorite soup. This is a tomato soup. It is a creamy tomato soup. We love this stuff. Definitely have to have this in our pantry. It is a staple. So I have 2 rows of that. Oh, I took something with me here. Oh, and I skipped over something. It was like it was telling me I skipped it. So right here we have some sweet and sour sauce. This stuff is so delicious. Everything I'm saying is so delicious. Well, not everything. There's definitely some fails in here, but this stuff is really, really good. Just fry up some chicken and then put this in your chicken and you have sweet and sour chicken. It is delicious. It would be really good with pork also. I did a video showing you guys how I can this. So good. Love it. It reminds me of the stuff that you get at the store. You know, with the pineapple in it. It tastes exactly like the store-bought stuff. Really, really good recipe, and this will definitely be a staple also going forward. I canned up quite a bit of this year was pizza sauce. Again, because we had a bumper crop of tomatoes, I was really focusing on making sure I got all of my tomato products canned for the next 2 years. That way next year, God forbid, we have a horrible tomato year, which next year I'm probably not going to plant as many tomatoes because we have a lot of tomato products already canned up for 2 years. So I won't be a hard focus on tomatoes. I'll definitely be focusing on other things next year, not tomatoes. So we have a whole bunch of pizza sauce here. I have almost 3 full rows going back of pizza sauce. Again, because it's just Steven and I can them in half-pint jars because this is usually what's good for us. When the kids are here, we'll just take more than half-pint obviously out of here, but I just can them in that because that's the size that we use. Canned up 2 different sizes. I canned a half-pint and pints. This is bruschetta. This stuff is so delicious. Definitely a pantry staple. Last year I did not can enough of it, and this year I knew that that was actually my first priority for canning this year was with the tomatoes. I knew I had to make bruschetta because we really loved it. Okay, and down here I have some diced green chilies. Canned these up last year, and they are really it takes a lot of work to can them because you have to peel them before you can can them. I do enjoy having them, but to be honest, I don't think I'm ever gonna can them again. I think I said this in my other pantry tour. I like to learn the skill just to know that I can do it. Know that if I ever need to, it's available, like I've already practiced doing it. But while they're available for me to buy at the store, and if they're not astronomically priced, like out of my budget, I'm gonna buy them at the store because that is a lot of work canning these things. I did a hot diced green chili, which I just put some red jalapenos in it, and then just a regular one. This year we had a really good year for green beans, so I got a whole bunch of green beans canned up. So I canned up sweet potatoes a couple years ago, and I'm honestly not going to do that again. Sweet potatoes store for almost a year if cured correctly, and they do not need to be canned. This was just an experiment that I was trying to see how easy they were to can and how well they did. I'm gonna probably end up actually making like a sweet potato pie with this just because I have to get these used. They were canned up last year, but that's not something that I really need to can because it stores so well. And then I have some Southern style collard greens here, which is just a whole bunch of greens. I canned this up last year. I didn't can anything this year because these were not my favorite. They're okay. Like if I want to have like maybe scrambled eggs, I'll mix them with it, but not my super favorite. Canning is definitely a wonderful option so that I'm not being dependent on my freezer. That is another reason why you see a lot of this stuff in here is because I have very minimal freezer space and I don't want to be dependent on that freezer because if that freezer goes out, all of that food is bad. So I really try to focus on canning a majority of my food and then freezer as a backup. There are definitely things I like frozen versus canned. For example, greens. I love frozen spinach, frozen kale, all of that stuff is really good to use if you don't have it fresh available. But you know, you just got, having an extra emergency amount is good just in case something does happen with your freezer. The other thing that I can in an excessive amount because we eat a lot of them and I really love the convenience of it, and it is one of my pantry staples, is canned potatoes. These are just a white potato and I can a lot of them. I'm gonna sit down here with you guys because that squatting, it's not very nice for my foot right now. So canned potatoes. I went to a produce auction just about an hour east of us and I picked up 2 or 3 big boxes of potatoes and I spent a day canning potatoes. Actually, it probably took me 2 days to do this. I can't remember. But last year when I was doing the pantry challenge, I really realized how much potatoes we actually consume. We just blew through our potatoes during that pantry challenge. So this year I said, I know what I need to can a lot of, and so I did it. That's the one thing that's really nice about the pantry challenge in January and February. It really shows you where your empty pockets are, where you need to work on, what your family eats, and what you consume like the most of. And it really shows you, okay, this is what I need to do going into this growing season. I need to make sure that I'm growing this, or that I'm purchasing and canning and preserving this amount just to get us through the year. So I am planning on doing it again in January and February. I'm actually pretty excited about doing it. I love the pantry challenge because it really does force me to just really come in here and make my meal plan. But again, we're getting off track. I have just some plain regular beets. I love beets. I love pickled beets. I love regular beets. They're just so delicious. My kids also love them, so I like to have these. These are beets that I actually grew this year myself. Normally I purchase my beets from Azure Standard, and like I purchase them in bulk and then I'll can them up. But this year I focused on growing them, and we grew them. So we have lots of fresh homegrown beets canned up. I have some carrots here. I have not mastered the skill of growing carrots. It's very difficult to grow carrots here because we go from like nice, beautiful spring weather to summer. And it happens all pretty much in 1 week, sometimes one day. So I can't grow carrots very well here. I definitely next fall, I think that's going to be something I'm going to focus on, is doing carrots. This year, I'm actually decided that my focus is going to be on garlic. I have tried to grow garlic in the past and it didn't work. So this year I said to myself, I'm going to try to grow garlic this year and see if I can master that skill. So that is what I'm working on this fall. Next fall, maybe I'll, hone in on my carrot growing skills. But I do baby steps for myself. I don't overwhelm myself and try to learn everything all at once. I kind of dedicate 2 or 3 new products each year that I'm going to learn how to grow or learn how to preserve. That's what I did this year. And then again, from the pantry challenge, we learned that we like canned corn, and we like a lot of it. I actually do like frozen corn better than canned corn. However, I just don't have the amount of freezer space that I need in order to freeze enough for us for the year. So canning is how I do our corn. I do have a little bit of bags in the freezer, but again, freezer space, we just don't have it. And then the bottom row here is all of our stocks. So over here I have chicken stock, right here I have beef stock. I actually have my roaster oven going right now. I'm making some more beef stock because this, I am one, everybody has their, their little finicky things. I have a lot of finicky things, but one of them is I like my jars to all be at the front. I hate when I come in here and the jars are all back. So this is my beef stock. This is actually not enough beef stock for us because it is soup and stew season right now. We are blowing through our broth, and I honestly hate making broth. My house right now smells amazing because it is the first day the broth is being made. I find that for the first 12 hours, your house smells glorious. I made a post on my Instagram this morning about beef broth, how the very first day it smells amazing. It smells like a beautiful stew being made on a cold fall day. Day 2 smells like that stew has gone bad and something is dead in it. Ugh. I am not a fan of making beef broth or chicken broth. It stinks on day 2. So I try to make huge batches all at once so that I really only have to endure that stink for a while. So I'm trying to make a lot of pints. I like to have both pints and quarts of broth because I find that different recipes call for different amounts. But if this is all I have, then it's fine. I'll just leave it in the fridge and use it throughout the week. But I definitely like doing pints and quarts for that. So I'm going to can up some pints of beef broth with this batch that I'm making right now. Then I have some turkey stock. I am down to only 5 jars of that. With the upcoming Thanksgiving and Christmas season, we actually raised our own turkeys this year. We raised 9 great white, I think they were called great white turkeys. We got them from McMurray Hatchery. We grew them out and we processed them a couple months ago, and I did not save the carcasses. I actually ended up giving the chickens the carcasses because I just didn't have freezer space for them. But I do have 2 full birds in there, one for Thanksgiving and one for Christmas. So with those carcasses, I'm gonna make the turkey stock for us for the year. We don't really gravitate to it, but it's very interchangeable with chicken stock, so I like to have that on hand. And then I just made up some veggie broth. I'm actually going to be posting that on a video probably next week showing you guys how I made this. It was the very first time I ever made veggie broth. I don't know why I've never made it before. Maybe because I just usually gravitate to using bones in my freezer, but I was doing a couple of recipes recently and they called for veggie broth, and I was like, okay, this is a sign that I need to get some veggie broth on my pantry shelf. So I canned that up a couple weeks ago, so we have that on there. I might do another batch of that. That is one that only takes one day to make, and you have the pleasant smell throughout the day. Then we have some green tomato salsa verde. I made this last year. I actually prefer the green tomato salsa verde versus the tomatillo. I don't know, I just like it better. So I canned up a whole bunch of this last year, so I didn't do any this year. Then we have some rows here of salsa. We have about 3 rows of salsa. We eat salsa, but we don't eat it like crazy amount. Now, mind you, this year, see if I can pull one from this year. Yeah, this is this year's and this is last year's. So this is last year's, this is this year's. I followed a completely different recipe this year, and this year's salsa is so, so good. But we have to eat through last year's salsa first. So I am trying to find recipes to use salsa. We've just been having a lot of chips and dips and nachos because I'm trying to burn through this so that we can get into the actually good tasting salsa. This year's salsa was really, really good. I can't remember where I got the recipe from. It was a canning site. It wasn't in my ball book or anything like that. It was an actual canning website. I think it might have been SB Canning. I'm not 100% positive. See, I should have wrote it down because now, next year when I go to make salsa, I'm going to want to mimic the good salsa and not the bad salsa. Maybe I did write it down. Oh, I can't remember. Memory, it's not there. This is my plain tomato sauce. I can it in pints and quarts. You can see it's a little bit more runnier than my pasta sauce. So I like to have this on hand because my tomato sauce is versatile. Because I can it plain, I can use this tomato sauce if I ever run out of ketchup, if I ever run out of barbecue sauce, if I ever run out of pasta sauce. This is a base, and so I really focus on making sure I have plain tomato sauce because it is a base for pretty much any other tomato product. So if I have a lot of this, I'm good. So I have canned up quite a bit of this. I'll still end up, if I have a good tomato year next year, I'll still can up more of these because we'll definitely go through these. Like, for example, when I make chili, I'm actually making chili tonight. I usually use this amount of tomato sauce, tomato sauce in my chili. So that will get used. Up here, I have all of my jams and jellies. I'll kind of go through them really quickly because there is a lot of them. So I just made this grape jelly. It set amazing and it's so good. I did a video on that just a couple weeks ago and I used grape juice to make it. So good. I have some pumpkin butter that I made up last year. It's exactly like apple butter, but it is pumpkin. So that is really good. Then I have some strawberry preserves that I actually have to get used up. I canned these up 2 years ago. These are from 2021. I don't like them because they are way too sweet for me. They're really good on like an ice cream or something, but just to have on toast or something, I can't handle it. It is too much sweetness for me. That's why I still have some left. Then we have strawberry jam, apple butter, peach jam. This is blackberry jam, plum jam. I actually use my plum jam to make plum sauce, like a sweet and sour plum sauce with it. Really good for that. Then I have strawberry rhubarb jam. I don't have very much of that left. I didn't really make any this year and I wish I would have. I have a strawberry raspberry jam. This stuff is so amazing. It is a low sugar recipe that I did this year with Pomona's pectin. Such a good jam. And then we have whole cranberry sauce. I like to have this on some sourdough bread with a little bit of cream cheese. It is so delicious. And then right here, I have some canned pineapple. What I do is I purchase pineapple when it is on sale. I'm gonna turn that light off because I am looking like a ghost right now. Hold on. It's still kind of ghosty, but that's fine. I can up pineapple whenever I find it on sale. It is really, really easy to can, and I love having this on hand if I want to make like a fruit salad or something. Perfect. And then I have one jar left. This is just some pineapple juice. It's the water that the pineapple sat in before I canned it. So I just canned this up. This is really good for pineapple juice. And then I only have one of these left. Next year, I am buying a lot of cherries because I canned up Marachino cherries this year. We'll get to it and I'll show you. But I canned up the juice that they were preserved in. Amazing. Oh, amazing. This stuff tastes like Dr. Pepper. I put this stuff with a little bit of club soda, instant Dr. Pepper. So, so good. So I only have one jar of it left, and I'm literally just like, this is going to be reserved for probably Christmas. It's going to be for a special occasion. And then I do have some store-bought jams. I have some Concord grape jelly. I actually purchased this before I knew that I could make that jelly. So I purchased 2 of these. I got these on Azure Standard, and they're just kind of little sweet treat because I love marmalade. I'm gonna actually try to make some this year. We're thinking about going to Florida and actually going to a couple U-Pick farms of Florida. We have a friend that actually lives in Florida. He lives about 10 hours south of us. We're thinking about going to his house and then maybe kind of working in some trips to some citrus U-Pick farms. And I wanna pick some oranges so that I can make some marmalade. So this is just some marmalade that I purchased from Azure Standard just to tide me over. And then I canned up some chicken. Having canned protein is a major convenience food. This is like a fast food in a jar. All I have to do, like let's say I want to make the chicken enchiladas, I literally just dump this with some enchilada sauce, heat it up, throw in some cheese, wrap them, and then you have enchiladas. Super, super easy. I really do like the taste of canned chicken also. It's not off tasting, it tastes really, really good. I'm gonna let you know I am a little bit of a canning rebel, so some of these things in here are not considered canning safe, but I'm the one consuming it, so I'm making my choices. Anyways, nobody else is eating it, just me. Steven doesn't like onions. I canned up some caramelized onions. These are really, really good. Just heat them up, and then I have caramelized onions for a recipe. Some of this teriyaki sauce. This is really, really good teriyaki sauce. I actually have a couple videos showing you guys how I make it. It's a really good recipe. And then in here I have some leftover cowboy candy brine. I am thinking about actually making a barbecue sauce with that. I have a recipe for that, so I want to give that a try because I have 4 jars of that brine that I need to get used. This is another new product that I did this year. This is a Asian chili sauce, sweet chili sauce. So good. And then last year I grew sugar rush peach peppers. I was not a fan of them, so I didn't grow them this year, but I did end up pickling some of them. They are really, really hot. If you want an alternative, instead of doing like a pickled jalapeno, I did these and they are a very good replacement, but they're just a little hot. And then I canned up some chocolate sauce. This is a canning safe recipe. I think I did a video on it showing you guys how I can it. Really, really good. This is actually a recipe that I need to work on because when I went to go and open it, I found that there was a whole bunch of hardened sugar crystals in it. So I need to try to work on getting this so that that does not happen, but maybe it was just a fluke and it was one of the jars I opened. I still have 2 more jars of it. And then we have some canned rhubarb. I did this one last year. I didn't really preserve very much rhubarb this year. I love having stewed rhubarb. It is one of my favorite treats. So I only have 4 jars of it. Next year, I am going to preserve more of it because I really do enjoy it. These things right here, amazing. I make kombucha and water kefir. And one way that I found to make it taste delicious is adding simple syrups. So this is a peach simple syrup that I made last year when I was canning my peaches. I just used some of the peelings and pits and made this simple syrup. This is an apple simple syrup. Stay tuned because we are going to be making some of this together with some apple scraps. This is really, really delicious. Another way I really enjoy this apple simple syrup is in the summer, having an iced tea. I just pour a little bit of either the peach, the apple, or the strawberry in with some iced tea, and it makes it kind of like a fruit tea. So, so good. The other thing that I made last year, or this year, beginning of the season, it already feels like it's over. But this is strawberry top simple syrup. This is a really good way to use up your strawberry tops instead of throwing them out or composting them. Really, really good. I only have 3 jars of this left, so I have been conserving it. I love actually taking a little bit of this simple syrup and pouring it in with those Waterloo sparkling waters. It tastes like strawberry pop. And then I have some grape juice here. I only got 2 pints. These are from grapes from our grapes that we grew this year. Put in 6 new plants, but we only have 2 plants right now that are producing. So I was able to preserve up a couple pints of the juice. And I only have 2 quarts left of peaches. Peaches this year were insanely priced. Because of the frost that we had last year, it caused all of the peaches in my area to actually not produce, like all of the blossoms fell off. So peaches were really, really hard to come by, and if you did find them, they were very, very expensive. So I didn't end up actually canning any peaches this year. I'll show you what I chose to do instead of canning my own. And this year I didn't really focus on jalapenos because last year I canned up enough for 2 years. These are our pickled jalapenos. We eat these a lot. We love, love pickled jalapenos. We put them on pretty much anything. And then these are my cowboy candies. Now I need to get eating through these because I noticed, I'm obviously not eating them quick enough because this is 2021. So I need to get eating these. And then this shelf is, we have pumpkin and butternut squash. Now butternut squash is kind of like the sweet potatoes. You don't really need to preserve it this way because it does last quite a while without any preservation steps being taken. The reason I can this is because I had one that was going bad and I didn't have a recipe to use it in, so I ended up canning it. But butternut squash and pumpkin are very interchangeable to use in recipes. So pumpkin bread, I will use this in it. Pumpkin, anything pumpkin related, you can actually use butternut squash in it. This is really easy. I just drain this. I let it usually strain for at least overnight. So if I know that tomorrow, let's say I want to make some pumpkin muffins, I'm going to strain this and let this drain overnight. That way it is nice and not too watery. So I have some pumpkin that I canned up also because it was going bad. So I keep these right beside each other because I will most likely gravitate to using either one of these because again, they're pretty interchangeable. In fact, I believe that most canned pumpkin purees, majority of it is actually butternut squash. So okay. Another thing that is kind of rebellish is I canned up some onion jam. This is a sweet maple jam. I believe I got this recipe from Rachel over at 1870s Homestead. I think that's where I got that recipe from. It is so, so good. I don't have a lot of jars left, and that is really delicious on hamburgers. Love it. Then I have some pickled beets here. I only have a couple of them. And then I grew these golden beets this year and I just canned them just plain. Really, really delicious. And then another thing that I tried last year was pimento peppers. Pimento cheese is a thing here in the South, so I wanted to try to can them up. Again, like the diced green chilies, a lot of work when I can just go and buy them for substantially cheap, even organic. So that one, I'm probably not gonna do it again. And then we have our mandarin oranges that we canned together. And then unsweetened applesauce. I like to have both sweetened and unsweetened, especially if I'm gonna use it in recipes. I like to have the unsweetened. So I canned up a whole bunch of that. And then these are our maraschino. I did not say that right with the juice. Maraschino cherries. So delicious. Love these. Definitely going to be canning a lot of those next year. Last year we were extremely blessed, and one of our friends has a pear tree, and he called us and he said, hey, I have all of these pears, I'm not going to use them, do you guys want to come over and pick them? So last year I was able to can up some pear sauce and a couple quarts of a spiced pear. So it's just pear with cinnamon in it. Really, really delicious. But this year he did not have good pear harvest, so he didn't have them available. And I actually tried to order some on Azure Standard, but they did not ship to me. They say they were out of stock before they shipped out. So disappointed about that. So we're just gonna have to kind of baby this and maybe have apples instead of the pear stuff this year. This is another thing that is a pantry staple for us. It is, sorry, I'm trying to squat down here and not fall. It is cranberry juice. I just take frozen cranberries, put boiling water over it, add a little bit of sugar, and can them. This is a recipe that is in the Ball Blue canning book. We're on the floor again. I am not into squatting right now. So anyways, the cranberry juice, what I like to do is strain off the cranberry. What you have to do to use the juice is you strain off the cranberries. So you have to let this sit for at least 6 weeks before you can really consume the juice, just to get it good and infused. Also, this is an extremely concentrated version of cranberry juice. I usually end up adding about half of the water as there is cranberry juice because it's really, really strong. What I do is I strain the cranberries off and then enjoy the juice. The cranberries I actually like to use in like a muffin or like a pancake, anything that would, you know, like a sweet treat with the cranberries. I like to save them and use them for that. Then we have banana peppers right here, pickled banana peppers. We really enjoy these. This was something new that I canned this year with you guys. This is a cucumber tzatziki. So what this is I can use this and just empty it out and make a tzatziki sauce with this. I just grew two plants this year, only 2 plants, because I knew I didn't need to serve a lot of cucumber stuff. And it was just amazing. I got so many cucumbers off of it. So I wanted to try something new this year, and so I canned up this tzatziki sauce. It's pretty good. I like having that available. And then I have some regular, what is this? Sweet cucumber relish. I did this last year because I didn't really focus on doing very much cucumber stuff this year. So next year I'll probably work on like my pickle products and my cucumber relish and stuff like that. I know I can make zucchini relish as well. I didn't attempt it this year though. The other thing that I can up is mustard. I have a yellow mustard canning recipe. I don't buy mustard because it is so easy to can up. I think I actually did a video showing you guys how I can this. Really easy, and this is a really good mustard. We like our mustards to be a little bit more vinegary, so I have control of how we like to eat it by canning it. And then this is something that I've tried out for the very first time this year. This is apple pie filling. It is so good. We've already gone through a couple of these quarts. Thinking I'm probably going to end up having to do probably a couple more quarts of this because this is not going to be enough to get us through this year. And then one thing, again, Rachel 1870s Homestead. I cannot recommend her channel enough. If you guys are not already following her, which if you've probably found me, you probably already follow her, but she is such a good wealth of knowledge when it comes to canning products, and when it comes to like canning things that are not like your regular run-of-the-mill like salsa and tomato sauce. I mean, she does that, but she does fun recipes. Like, she really thinks outside of the box and can stuff. And one recipe that I picked up from her a couple years ago was corn syrup. When processing my corn, because again, I can my corn, with all of the cobs, I was able to make some beautiful corn syrup. I use this in like recipes like pecan pie. Everyone has a different way of saying it. Pecan, pecan, I call it pecan. So this is really good in pecan pies. Like, it is a really good corn syrup alternative. If you don't want to use like the store-bought stuff, this homemade stuff works amazing. And these are our lonely apples we have left. I like to have canned apples on hand for doing things like apple crisp or fried apples, things like that. Now, you notice that I hardly have any left here, but I have a fridge full of apples and I have that apple box on there. So that is going to be some projects that I'm getting at in the next couple of days, because I need to get my apples all canned up for this year. And then this is my sweetened applesauce. I made this last year. This stuff is just, whenever I am sick, I open a jar of this and it makes me feel instantly better. Love it. Love this applesauce. I focused this year on making a unsweetened version that I showed you previously, but we did have, the reason I didn't do really sweetened is because I knew that I already had some on the shelf, and we don't consume a lot of it, but it is nice to have. And then right here, we have canned ground beef. Again, meat. Love canning meat. It is such a convenient thing to have. I don't mind the taste of ground beef. I find that when I use it, I just give it a little quick rinse off just to kind of get some of that, I don't know, canned beef has a certain taste to it. I don't mind it. I know some people just detest it, but I find that canning meat is a really, really good shelf-stable alternative to the freezer. So I need to actually can up some more of this, and we got a whole bunch of deer meat from a friend, so I'm probably gonna end up in the next couple of weeks actually canning up all of that meat as well. Okay, I just had to go and change my battery out. I am talking so much that I killed my first battery. I tell you, I get in this pantry and I just love showing you guys everything that I have canned, but not only stuff that I have canned, but I'm hoping to actually give you guys ideas of things that you can can in the future, or potentially things that you want to grow next year so that you can try to can it. So that's the other reason why I love watching pantry tours, is because I am proud of what I've done. I'm proud of the hard work that I've put in. Not everything has completely turned out. Not, like, majority of it is not perfect by any means, but I'm learning how to be more self-sufficient, and I love it. And I love to encourage you guys to do it. And I love watching pantry tours because I feel like people are proud, and I love seeing what people have learned, and I love having people tell me new things that I can try. So one fun thing that I'm going to be canning from now on, I love this. It's corn relish. I got this recipe from the Ball Blue Book. It's really, really good recipe. One thing that I did last year, because we had the Sugar Rush peach peppers that I didn't super enjoy, I actually attempted to make a hot sauce with it last year. It's not our favorite. That's why we have a couple jars left. We'll get through it, but it's not our super duper favorite. One thing that is our favorite though is this tomatillo jalapeno hot sauce. I actually got this recipe from Becky over at Acre Homestead. Again, she is another wealth of knowledge. She does a lot of canning on her YouTube channel, as well as like preserving. She shows you how to preserve stuff, bake stuff, cook stuff. Wonderful, wonderful YouTube channel. So check her out. But this is where I got that sauce from. It is our favorite hot sauce. It is so good. Tomatillos and jalapenos and onions. Such a good hot sauce. Now, Steven is not a fan of regular green beans, but if you pickle them, he loves them. So this year I made a whole bunch of dilly beans or pickled green beans. So he will eat those. So sometimes I will actually take out some regular green beans for me, and then I will open a jar of pickled green beans for him, and then he'll have those. I do like them as well. This year I kind of experimented a little bit. I did half the jars with them whole, and then I was getting kind of, I don't know, I was trying to multitask, and I was canning regular green beans up, so I had them all broken up. So some of them are smaller pieces of dilly beans versus like the traditional big ones. But I was trying to multitask. I just split all of my green beans so I could do half dillied and half regular. So that's why they're like that. One thing we don't eat a lot of is pickles, so I don't really can a lot of them. These are from last year. These are sweet pickles. They're okay, but we're not really pickle eaters. We like pickled stuff, but just not cucumbers. I mean, sometimes I crave a dill pickle, but we have dill pickles for that craving. So down here we have what I just showed you, our garlic dill pickles. My daughter actually helped me can these last year, hence why she named them. I don't know if you can see that. It says Krabby Patty pickles, and she called them that way because she says that they look like Krabby Patty pickles. So she labeled all of my jars Krabby Patty pickles. These are just a garlic dill pickle. And then because of bumper crop tomatoes, I canned a whole bunch of ketchup. This is actually a really good recipe. I think we got this recipe over at Traditions Homestead. I think that's the name of their channel. I cannot remember what their names are though. Sarah and Kevin, I believe. I could be wrong. Correct me in the comments if I am not correct in that, but that is another excellent YouTube channel that I glean a whole bunch of information from. One of them, ketchup recipe. They actually did a video recently where she made stevia drops, which I am 100% going to try because I grew stevia this year. I eat regular sugar, like I'm not sugar free, but stevia would be kind of a nice little treat to have on hand. So I'm gonna probably try to make some stevia drops from her video as well. But yeah, that's another excellent channel, and I believe that's where I actually got that ketchup recipe from. It is very, very similar to the store-bought ketchup that you buy. I actually have one more container of this left. I purchased this one on Azure Standard because last year I did not have a good tomato harvest, so I wasn't able to make ketchup. Ketchup requires a lot of tomatoes. It's a lot of work to make because you have to cook it down for so long. But this year, bumper crop of tomatoes, I made a lot of ketchup. Like this is, I don't know if you guys can see here. This all the way back, full of ketchup. So I'll be good for this year. I already showed you the Krabby Patty pickles, aka garlic dill pickles. And then right here we have pepperoncinis. I didn't grow them this year because last year I canned up enough. But we have a couple rows of those. Those are really good to put in with like a roast called Mississippi pot roast. You throw in some butter, some pepperoncinis, the roast. I think there's a couple other little seasonings that you put in with it, and you let it slow cook all day. It's amazing. It is amazing. So I literally just can pepperoncinis just for that. And then one thing I tried to do this year was pickled okra. I have not opened this yet. I only did 2 jars of it because my main focus with my okra this year was just breading it and having it frozen pre-breaded because we do like fried okra. But I'm excited to try the pickled okra. I may open it up in the next couple of days. It's a little bit pink because I used green okra and red okra in this. And then over here is our honey. I purchased this from Azure Standard. It's just a big thing of honey. It's definitely crystallized. I should have actually, when I got it, taken it and put it into these containers. This is actually some honey from a local beekeeper. I have 3 of these quarts left. We go through a lot of honey because we love it. We love it in everything. Plus, I use it to make a face wash with as well. So we just go through a lot of honey. But I picked this up from Azure Standard because my local beekeeper, unfortunately, his prices went up $40 and it was way out of my price range, and Azure Standard was a tad bit cheaper, so, or not a tad bit, a lot bit cheaper. So I purchased it from Azure Standard. I may end up actually still trying to get this out and just portion it into these size jars because it works a little bit better than me trying to get into this gallon-sized jar of honey. That is the last of all of my canned preserved food. So what I'm going to show you next is stuff that I purchased at the grocery store. This is stuff that I cannot can, cannot grow, just my grocery store staples. And I like to have it in, again, bulk because I do like to have the reassurance of knowing that I got it at that price. I have enough to last us for a while. The other thing too is I loathe going to the grocery store. I'm not a huge people person. I don't like crowds of people. I don't like packed grocery stores, so I try to stay out of them as much as possible. So that's why I buy in bulk. Plus, Azure Standard, you get really good deals when you buy in bulk. So last week's video, I actually showed you me kind of reorganizing a little bit and me moving that shelf into here. This shelf is things like my overstock of my pasta, my baking goods, and all of my spices. So just my overage of some beans in here. This is like liquid gold right now because you cannot find this in the stores. So I am literally just babying this. I have it hidden away for a special occasion. So that's what's in that drawer. I said on that video last week that I wasn't able to move this stuff out of my spare bedroom. I actually moved some stuff around. This shelf used to house all of my spare canning jars. I actually moved those into my spare bedroom and moved the food that was in there into here. I really want to keep stuff centralized all together. When I'm coming back here to get food, or if I run out of something, I want to have it in one spot. I don't want to be going from different rooms. rooms. I mean, it worked for me before. Like, you really just have to work with what you have. I know people that literally have food stashed underneath their bed because that is where they have the space for. But I have this back room that we were not using for anything, so I really wanted to make this space work for me. And so this is kind of my grocery store, I called it. This is my grocery store room. So on this shelf up here, I just have some extra beans. These are some garbanzo beans, and there's some pinto beans back here. This is our apple juice. We love this apple juice. I pick it up from Azure Standard. It's so delicious. I have some extra salt back here, and then also this tomato paste. I buy this in bulk also, because I do use it in a couple recipes, and it does take a lot of tomatoes in order to make tomato paste. So that I just buy from Azure Standard. And this was my solution to not canning peaches this year. I actually purchased a box from Azure Standard. So I have these to get me through for the year. Hopefully next year we'll be able to get some better priced peaches. We actually have 2 peach trees in our front yard, and they are on their 5th year. So hopefully next year we don't have a frost and we can get a couple of peaches. It will not be enough peaches to can for the year, but hopefully next year is better for peaches, because we will can a lot of peaches next year. That is exactly what I'm talking about when I'm saying like I'm canning 2 years worth of stuff, because things like that happen. Like, it was a horrible peach year. This year, really good for apples everywhere. So this year I'm really focusing on my apple products, just in case next year's not a good year for apples. So I'm just kind of focusing on what we have an abundance of right now. We eat a lot of olives, so I have a case of olives here. We also like artichoke hearts, so I picked these up at Walmart. And then we just have 3 jars of those. I like to just have a little extra on hand. And then salmon, I got a pretty good deal at Sam's Club for this salmon, so I have a couple of jars of that. This box is just kind of miscellaneous stuff. It is things like my coconut milk. I have some Dijon mustard, some tuna back there, some extra red wine vinegar. I like that for salad dressings and some recipes. And then I have a couple things of peanut butter, maple syrup. I always make sure I have a lot of maple syrup, not just because I'm Canadian, but because I like maple syrup on everything. Maybe that is because I'm Canadian, I don't know, but this is a staple to have. Worcestershire, whatever sauce, the W sauce. I use so much of that. I use that in any type of beef recipe. I'll load it full of that. Then these are my oils. So I have a coconut oil here. And then these are the oils that I use to make my homemade mayonnaise. I like a light tasting olive oil, so I use that in those recipes. And then just have an extra avocado oil and sesame oil. And then down here I have vinegars. So I have just regular white distilled vinegar. I clean with vinegar, so that's why I have a lot of it. Plus I use it, for canning stuff. Then we have some red wine vinegar here, some rice vinegar, and then a white wine vinegar back there. I have a couple things of molasses back there because that is what I use to make brown sugar. So I like to have that on hand. And then some club soda, again, making my Dr. Peppers. And then down here is my butternut squash that I grew this year. So I have a huge tub of that. Then we have pumpkins that we grew this year. And then these guys are called sweet dumplings. I got the seeds from M.I. Gardner. They're supposed to be like a butternut squash sweetness, but in a small version. So I'm looking forward to actually opening these up and having some of them. I'm thinking I want to do like a sausage and apple potential meal with them. So that may be coming up. And then over here, this is the last part of my pantry room. This is where I house all of my bulk flour, sugar, salt, rolled out. I have a couple 5-gallon buckets of these, and I just use the gamma lids on top of it because these are easy to get in and out of. I love these gamma lids with this because it's just a twist and I'm in it. So this is where I keep all of my sugar. Again, I have a couple things of sugar because I use a lot of it to make my kombucha and water kefir. And then we have some flour. This is the flour that I get from Azure Standard. This kind here. So I picked up a couple bags last month. So I have 2 5-gallon buckets of that. I go through at least one of these buckets a month, so we do use a lot of flour. I know with flour it does not store very well when it has already been pre-ground, but I use at least one of those buckets a month. So we will definitely use through that flour and it will not go bad. That would be a waste of money if that were to go bad. I would not buy that much knowing that it was gonna go bad. And then right here, what do I have here? I have rolled oats. That's a good thing to keep on hand. I like to have those. This is full of Redmond's real salt. This is the salt that I love, love, love. Use this for everything. I can with it, I bake with it. It's delicious. And then back there is actually some whole wheat, unbleached bread flour that I need to get used up. So I probably need to use that, move that bucket to the front so I remember I have to use that flour. I gravitate more to using this, so that kind of just is sitting back there. It's not completely full, it's almost empty actually. And then here I have some cornmeal. I can't open it right now. White rice, and then that is just my dried black beans. That's it for the pantry. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really hope it wasn't too long-winded for you. Again, I get in there and I just get talking to you guys because I love sharing it with you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you on the next video. Bye, guys.